Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of The Hand Does the Talking. I'm your host, Marshall Ellis, the puppeteer for the Meepits.
I'm TJ Schubert. I operate the Tossits and Spike the Chupacabra.
This week, we're going to be introducing ourselves and telling you the story of how we got into puppetry, what inspired us, and why we've been pursuing this as a career and a passion. I wanted to give a little explanation on what the show is going to be about.
Okay.
We are going to be talking about what inspires us in puppetry, some puppetry news when it comes up, giving you tips and tricks on what we think is best for places to purchase material, and just good practice to have while you're a puppeteer. If you're new or old, if you have suggestions, we'd love to take them and share them with our audience. We are hoping to just have a good conversation about puppetry and about puppeteers and what makes them tick. We're really excited to share with you, and we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I think we're ready to tell our stories. Do you think so, TJ?
We're all ready. Let's hear your story. Come on, man. Tell me the good stuff.
All right. So it's interesting. I just started puppetry last year in 2020. I have only been doing puppetry for 9 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're that good already?
I wouldn't say I'm that good. I definitely enjoy what I do, and I've got a lot to learn. But, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the people that were, there to help me along the way, especially you. You were a big support, and you'll be a part of the story that I tell today.
What? I'm part of a story? That's incredible.
Yeah,
I always want to be in a story. Let's hear it. I'm pumped. I think the audience is pumped too to hear it.
Yeah, all right. So it all started in the summer of 2020. I had just joined a Christian workforce organization, and they had gone to a virtual program and sent us to different European and Asian churches online virtually. They were going to send us physically, but coronavirus shut that down. So I get coupled up with this family from the Netherlands, and they're working to build this program to share kids' educational videos with several different other countries in Europe, in Europa countries. So what they needed to do was make a character that was easy to dub over and not expensive to keep doing that over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what came over me, but I said, how about we make a puppet? And it didn't take much, explaining or begging. They almost immediately were like, yeah, that's a great idea. Who's going to do that? And I was like, well, I guess I can make one. I've never done it before, but I've always wanted to, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I'm sure I'd made the paper bag or the sock puppet as a kid, but never something in this scale. So the first thing I did after getting approval was just so much thinking about what I'm going to do, where do I buy this stuff, what resources are there to actually become a puppeteer. And I feel like anybody born after 2008 really knows the one place to really do something like that is YouTube. So
for sure, yeah. Alan Kritzinger and stuff. You probably binge watch his videos.
I typed in how to make a puppet, and Adam Krutinger was the first response I got. I did some scrolling, I didn't just click on the first video, but his, just a great thumbnail and a good length in the video. So I clicked on it, and the presentation was just immaculate. He was very just forward and happy and helpful. It wasn't like a vague answer. Everything was very detailed and very precise, and just super helpful. And I probably watched his entire how-to portfolio, And then in a few of his videos, he'll say, "Oh, I use puppet pelts," and here's some stores I use and stuff like that. So I went to those websites and looked them up, and I was like, this is absolutely the best. I checked other stores and stuff like that, and just whatever Adam was saying was this is what he likes to use was usually the best option for using them. So I went on to make a compilation of like the things I would need to build Albert, which is that's the first one I built, and I didn't have a name for him, but that's who it was. It was Albert.
Albert.
Yeah,
Why Albert,
so,
if I might ask? That's a fun name.
Yeah, we were trying to come up with this name for him, and there was all crazy stuff. We had crazy, weird alien names, and then just like monster, like very normal, like just like, you know, boring names. And my little cousin Donovan, was like, I'd name him Albert. And I was like, that is like the perfectest name because it is not threatening or childish, you know, it's just the name, you know?
Yeah.
That anybody could have that name. So that's what we went with. It was just a lucky little conversation with my cousin. And initially Albert was kind of like a board decision where it wasn't just my choice to make him how I wanted. So Albert wasn't really a decision I could make by myself. He was more of a teamwork built puppet. But I got to have my own spins on him, and I was the one building him, so I needed the most to, you know, say about how he needed to be made because of my ability in puppetry at the time. Because there's no way on earth that I could have made a fleece puppet on my first try and not made him look appalling. I mean, Leftover was my first fleece puppet, and he just looked so trashy, which I know is the point, but I wasn't very proud with how Leftover first turned out. And if you're wondering, audience, who these puppets are or, you know, what the heck we're talking about, we will have links in the descriptions with our Instagrams and TikToks and stuff like that, so you can actually go and see what our characters look like. But for your information, Albert is the big blue guy on the poster of this podcast, and
he's not the gray guy. He's not the gray guy.
Spike is the little black guy in the post of the podcast. So I had to build this puppet with people behind me always like, ooh, let's change this, let's change that. But I didn't really have to worry about all that because he turned out perfect. I haven't had to make any grand changes to Albert. He's been fantastic the entire time I've had him. I've done some re-sewing because I was awful at it, but that's just something you learn.
Yeah.
And that's something that Adam's videos kept teaching me. And people like Chris Palmieri also helped. So I made Albert, and I was very happy with the outcome of the puppet. He was very fun to do, and he's so much fun to voice. And after we finished making him, we made several videos about playing games and language learning skills and stuff like that. So he was very fun to be an entertaining and educational puppet. But education is not really like what I want to do with puppetry solely. You know, I don't want to be the Sesame Street guy, but I definitely wouldn't have been able to get my start in puppetry without joining that Christian program and getting set with that family that I got put with, because without that happening, I wouldn't have been able to work with those people and make Albert. So I'm very thankful for that. At the time, I was living with my grandparents and about to make a move back to Europe with my family, and I had made probably 3 or 4 other puppets in that time. I made Tiny, Leftover, Point, and Zeke. And I'd also made the 2 like tiny replicas.
Replicas?
Yeah, basically, I just wanted to work on my skill some more, so I made 2 almost identicals and gave them to my cousins to play with.
Oh, okay.
So that was a lot of fun. But right before I left, I made a TikTok account and started posting videos because why have puppets if you're not going to post, you know? And I think very early on, I started doing like response videos. People would comment something like, "Oh, you're so cute." And I'd be like, "Oh, thank you. I know you're cute." And that was a lot of tiny oriented comments. But there was this just random guy, and he was like, "Oh, I want to be your friend." And I was like, "Oh my God, absolutely. I'd love to be your friend." And it turns out to be this puppeteer with this character called Spike. And I was like, this guy is really cool. I'm going to follow him and send him a message and say what's up. And very early on, like probably within the week, I was invited to a big group of just like-minded puppeteers.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember Chris and Nate from Donk and Friends, and Chris from Chris Palmieri messaging me about you, and he's like, check out this guy. He's so new. You should help him out. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna follow him and send him a message and stuff, trying to hype him up on the platform. And we just became good friends. I remember that. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was just interesting because I had seen Donk a few times and I'd seen Chris a few times and didn't really think about it. But just these really amazing and friendly people came to my side and you know, said that if you want to do this, we're here to support you and help you build a channel and grow your community, which isn't really something that every hobby or performance art does, you know. Sometimes it's like, oh, you're my competition now. I have to fight you because you're doing the same thing I am, which I wasn't really worried about happening because that's not how puppeteers are. I don't think, you know, at least
there's some bad eggs in puppetry, but there's some good people out there, just like in any art form.
Absolutely. For the majority of puppeteers, there hasn't been a lot of beef.
Yeah.
So I'm in this group and I'm with these great people and we're growing together and it's so beneficial and it's a huge blessing. And I've really enjoyed that. I have had this community of people to talk to and express myself. So I've been very grateful for that. I would say probably October or September, I was in contact with a member of the group chat, and they were interested in buying a puppet, which is something I was hoping to branch into, but really hadn't like super dove into it yet. You know, I was just fresh on like, this is a great idea. I would love to sell puppets. I need money so I can make more puppets. So let's sell some. And that project was so much fun. I probably spent 4 days on this puppet, and it just turned out so amazing. It's this bat with 2 live hands, and the wings go out really far, and it looks really cute, and it's super cool. I have pictures on it.
I'm so jealous about it. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, on my Instagram.
I wanted it. Yeah. You did fantastic work, folks.
Yeah. What did I make? I made a good amount of money for it, and I was really happy with how much I made because, you know, making money is the hardest part about having a business when you're just starting out, you know?
Oh, yeah, you're just a one-man band, and you're just running your own business. It's hard.
Yeah. So that's something I do, and I've done a few times, and I made a few deals and stuff like that. It's been really great to have that kind of, like, back and forth with people. But yeah, I mean, my story is pretty short. It's just 9 months. I have built maybe 20 puppets. They're all very different. And I think I've built a different skull for each puppet, which is also a skill that without Adam Krutinger, I would not have even thought of how to do it that way. And he does such a great job teaching. This podcast might as well just be a thank you to Adam Grutinger, because without him, it wouldn't exist for me. I wouldn't have dreamt of having a conversation about what puppetry means to me. Yeah, do you have any questions about, like, why I even considered doing this, or anything like that?
Yeah, well, you sort of, I sort of kind of answer how you got into it was like the church group, and that's like that dragged you into this, and now you can't escape puppetry.
Yeah, it's not. You wouldn't think that it would get you like that, but puppetry is such a versatile art form that it'll find you in that little niche that you didn't know you had, and it'll just hold on to you and be like, yeah, you do that. You're so good at that. Keep doing that forever. And it's just so nice and helpful. Personally, I was in a rut emotionally. I had nothing going for me in my life. I did college the year before and was stuck in a apartment for most of 2020. And it was, I'm not afraid to say it was very depressing to just sit around and do nothing. So having this opportunity to express myself and be creative was such a blessing, and really saved the rest of my year, because I would have just been a bummer for Christmas and stuff like that if I had not figured out what I want to do with my life like that. I would have been upset. So I'm glad that I found puppetry. And I don't know if this style is what I'm going to do forever. Influences in my life like Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff like that, with their small character puppetry, is just so fantastic, and that's something I'm looking at doing. But I really enjoy what I'm doing now, and I think it's a really great art form for anybody interested in joining.
Yeah.
The community is great.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of great people like Chris Palmieri and Nate and all these fantastic puppeteers that just come in and just like warm you into the group and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic group, just like it's like anything. There's some good people and there's some bad people, but it's a fantastic group, and puppetry is a wonderful art form. And I think people should get into not just doing one style of puppetry. I've been seeing that a lot lately. People just get stuck in one, and they never go into the other forms of puppetry. So they just stick with hand puppets, like Muppet style puppets. They just stay there. They don't go to the marionettes or shadow or rod or hand. If people are listening out there, try to diverse yourself in different forms. Maybe blend them. Maybe blend all 5 of them together. I don't know. There's something cool out there, folks.
Yeah, I feel like Sesame Street and Muppets, which, don't get me wrong, they are amazing and I love them so much. But that style of puppetry has really been what people only see when they imagine what people do as a living as a puppeteer. But there's more to it than just that style. Like TJ said, there's so many different ways you can be a puppeteer. So don't let that stop you if that's something that doesn't interest you. But if you're interested in the wider scheme of puppetry, definitely look at different ways you can do it and invent a new way. That's what art is for, is to let you make new things,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's my story. Thank you guys for listening to the story. I would love to tell you more, but it's only been 9 months. I think that's about all I have to say about what I've been doing.
His journey is just beginning, folks, so stay tuned for him.
Yeah, I definitely have more to tell in the future. Before we tell TJ's story, we have to take a break and hear a word from our sponsor. So let's do that right now.
Welcome back, everybody. I'll be talking about how I got in puppetry and a little bit of my story. So it was 4 or 5 years ago, 4 or 5, yeah. And I was a freshman in high school, and I was a pretty shy kid, and I signed up for art team, and there was a lot of talented artists in the team and stuff. And the great, one of the great art students in our class wasn't there the whole week, and our teacher needed somebody to make a puppet for our team, and she assigned me, and I thought puppets were easy, so I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome because they're just wiggling dolls. I just gotta make a doll with strings, right? Wrong. It was very complicated, and it took me 5 months to make this marionette that I called T-Jar. It's based from my name, TJ, and then Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I have like this complicated story for him. I love storytelling, and I just had a blast making this puppet, and it was made out of clay. It was made out of metal, wood. I took apart like pens for like the springs and stuff to make like joints. It was really complicated and cool and stuff, and it was like I used stuff that you should not be using for marionettes, but I used it anyway. I used like I think chicken wire to make the for the strings. It was like heavy because the clay was heavy. I knew how to sculpt from clay, not how to carve out of wood. So I just made it out of clay and all that stuff. It looked really cool, and we took it to the competition, and there were so many awesome puppets there. There was like puppets. They were like realistic, like sci-fi monsters and stuff. And there's like some Muppet one. There was like some Muppet creatures. No, like you had to make an alien puppet for our team for the competition. So I made T-Jar. I brought T-Jar. And I made him like a little stand and everything, like a little. It was so cool. And I put him right next to the other puppets. And the judges came, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose to this competition. And I won. This small little marionette made out of clay and chicken wire won, and I went to state, and I won state. And somebody told me that I'll be doing puppetry for my whole life, and I'm like, oh no, nobody's gonna take me serious. It's gonna be terrible, you know.
Wow.
And I just want to be an artist. I didn't want to be a puppeteer. I just want to be took serious with my art and stuff, and I still do. And I went back. I was the first freshman in my high school history in art team that won state. The first freshman. There was a section in our school that we can put our art stuff in, like a little museum or whatever. I put T-Jar there for 4 months or two, and I made some puppets, some marionettes during that 4 months because my art teacher wanted me to make more marionettes for my grade. So I made some more, made a tap dancing penguin and a country dancing frog, and then that was my grade. I was like, it was a simple grade. I just got to make some of these little string puppets, and I get an A plus for sure. So it was like, yeah, I'm gonna change in a few months. Going to change my art style and stuff. I'm gonna go back to painting. I want to bring T-Jar home. He was my favorite marionette so far. I might just have him display him and stuff in my room. But I went to get T-Jar from the museum, and he was destroyed.
Oh my goodness.
This wonderful my first marionette, my first puppet I ever made, was destroyed.
That's heartbreaking.
It was like seeing my child just in pieces. And you know, clay doesn't really, when you drop clay, it's like shatters and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when you drop metal, it kind of bends and stuff. So it was like I couldn't put back together. I couldn't. It was destroyed.
Yeah, that's one Humpty Dumpty you can't rebuild.
Yeah, I told my art teacher that I quit puppetry. I am done. I'm moving on. I went home that night, and the Muppet movie was on, and I was planning to switch the channel or whatever. And my mom threw me this black sock. And I put that black sock over my hand, and I looked at Kermit the Frog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be my thing. And I took that black sock. There was another pair of the black sock, and I went to school that day. The next day, I took some plastic spoons from the lunchroom, and I took some cardboard. I painted them white, and I grabbed some red fabric, and I made this little sock puppet. I named him Drax the dinosaur. And I was like, I'm gonna remake T-Jar. I'm gonna have Drax the dinosaur, and then they're gonna go on sci-fi adventures and stuff, and do some cool stuff. Be my version of Star Wars and stuff. And then I never remade T-Jar, but I still had Drax dinosaur, and and nobody really liked the name Drax in my school. Nobody in my school really liked the puppets then. And my art teacher said, change the name, and I named him Spike. Spike the whatever. And then Spike the whatever kind of off into Spike the Chupacabra. And I created Spike on April 16, 4 or 5 years ago. I still remember the day, because that's the day I created the top of its name and created the first Spike. I have that on my calendar. It's my new life began on April 16th.
Wow, what a origin story.
It was. It's a very cool origin story. It's like I lost my first puppet, and I gained Star. So I made Big Red. If you guys remember, if I have any old fans out there, I made Big Red and Swampy. There was just a foam ball and just random cheap fabric I found. And that's what I made puppets, was just foam kickballs and ping pong balls and socks and stuff. It was really, in blankets I made out of puppets. It was really crappy. And then I had to learn. I had to learn how to sew, learn the materials, watch a lot of tutorial videos and stuff. And I just made videos for my school announcements, talking about like the homecoming and all that stuff. And it was like fun. I was like, yeah, it was cool. It was gives me a simple grade in the classes. I can get out of stuff doing the puppets. It was cool. And I still get out of classes without doing the puppet stuff to this day now. But it was fun, and I kind of had to find a voice for these characters and find out what's the purpose. And like Spike had so many different voices. He had a snake voice, but he doesn't have a tongue, so that makes no sense. And then he had a New York accent, like, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, what's up?" And then that makes no sense because chupacabras don't live in New York. And then it kind of evolved into our Ernie, like, "Oh, hi there, my name is Spike." And then that makes no sense. And then I'm like, I'll just give him my normal voice, and I just gave him my voice. And I made more characters. I made Wildcat, and I just keep growing the team, and I start making YouTube videos and like vlogs or whatever with puppets, and that was fun. And then, but I didn't figure out where I belonged in the puppets tree, and I'm still figuring it out to this day, where my characters belong and what is their purpose and stuff. And then I did TikTok. I kind of call myself the father of puppets on TikTok. There was only Toily and one Brady lady, but they were Toily was just one character, and one Brady lady was just a person connected to puppetry. But the Toppets were a puppet group. It was the first puppet group that came onto TikTok. And
so you were like the revolutionizer of like just making puppet stuff for TikTok.
Yeah. And now there's tons of puppets on TikTok, puppet groups, and now there's and I started puppets playing instruments. That's what I'm really known for, like puppets playing the piano, puppets playing the guitar, and like I couldn't see any. One Brady lady just did videos with her next to the puppets, and Toily was just doing stupid jokes. But I had Spike playing the guitar, I had my Coyote playing the piano, and I just see a whole bunch of these other puppeteers come in, and then they're blowing up. And like Chris Palmieri, I remember he had like 10 followers, and he's like begging people to follow me. I remember that video. So I was like, I'm making puppets. I need followers. I need this. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna help this guy out. I had like maybe 200 followers then. I gave him a shout out video, and I remember Donk came to the picture, and he was like, he was just doing it for fun, and now it's like a business for him now. You know, I mean, Nate and Dunk, and a whole bunch of other small puppeteers, and then I helped them out, helped them grow, and like Ozzy and Tank. I remember she was planning to quit puppetry and quit TikTok, and then I came and I like mentor and like just tell her like, this is, you can't quit this. It's a wonderful art form and stuff. Because a lot of puppeteers you see on TikTok now, it's like I had a hand to helping them out and stuff. But I'm kind of like the father, and I created the puppet group, the TikTok puppet group. That I'm not a part of anymore. And now I'm doing some projects I'm working on. I did Spike Talks with Spike. That really blew up. I had Luckle Ducklebird from Bird Call Radio and Toilet Tea Paper. And One Brady Lady had some big puppeteers. And now I'm doing the Toppet Show. I'm really excited to work on that. I'm doing it all by myself, editing and everything. And we have a movie in the plans and some other episodes, other shows coming out soon. We have an animated series we're trying to work out right now, and a whole bunch of awesome projects. We have some sci-fi movies, got some horror movies coming. So we have a lot of cool things coming from the Toppets, and I'm just getting started, you know. So
yeah. Do you realistically, what do you think about like what that's going to take for you, and how attainable do you think that goal is to make all of these films and projects by yourself? Is there any changes that you really want to make and expect to make in the next few years to actually change how your puppetry works? Because just like you said, when you were offering advice and helping other people, you need help as well to make things like this. So what are you seeing that you're going to need from people?
Well, right now I'm growing my team out. Right now we got some directors planned for these films. We got a great animated team, and I like to be a one-man band, but I gotta work with people and stuff. That's like we all do. We just gotta all work together. And I might hire some of my puppet friends for these films. Wink, wink, nod, nod. You know. Yeah, I'm gonna grow my team out. Right now we're kind of small, and I'm excited to work with people and have them take over some of my characters, because right now I'm pretty much doing all my characters right now, all the voices and all the puppetry and stuff. But I want to just stick with like 4 or 5 characters, you know.
Right, because doing an entire group, that washes out the individuality of a character. If you're doing 7 voices, sure, but 20 different puppets, it's really hard to do that.
We have 100 and something Toppets, and only like one of them I don't do the voice of. The rest I do. Wow. And I'm not counting like the ones, not counting like the Muppet replicas I have, but like the rest of the Toppets, like I did the voice. I did the voice of the Cotton Candy Critter, and a lot of them, they kind of share voices. If you tell with Pip the Penguin and Spike, they have like the same voice but different speech pattern. Just like Yoda and Grover, like with Frank Oz, did with Grover and Yoda, had the same voice but different speech patterns. So that's what I do, trying to pass off a new character, is just talk differently in the same voice or higher pitch it or something. We're gonna grow the team and grow my empire. Yeah, I think that's something that we should discuss in another episode, is how you can be one voice, but you can make that voice do so many things. For sure, yeah. Like Jim Henson and we did for Dr. Teeth and Ralph. Ralph was very calm and very he knew what kind of words were coming out of his mouth before he says it. But Dr. Teeth would be just saying a bunch of the hip words and not understanding what's going on, and just very chaotic and stuff. But it's the same voice, but the character really matters, you know? Right, yeah. Character is important. I mean, just your story is so interesting because it was a chore to make this puppet. And you turned it into, not, oh, this sucks, I don't want to ever do this ever again. You were encouraged to
to keep it up because people knew that you could do something better and improve upon what you started with. Do you ever think about making that puppet, the first one you made, into a puppet that you would make now?
I do think about that all the time. I think about making that costume puppet because it's kind of like imagine Big Bird, but without the feathers, and very very creepy, very gray scales, and a long snake tail, and a giant beak, and giant fly eyes you can see yourself through. It was really cool, and
Wow.
I still sketch it, and I still mess around with the character, like in comics or whatever I do. But I really want to do the character again, but I don't know if it will fit the puppets now, or it can be like a spin-off series. It can be like a sci-fi movie in the future. I can add T-Jar, but maybe someday T-Jar will come back.
So you expect T-Jar, when you make him the next time, will be a full body giant puppet?
Yes, that's
what
that's what I'm thinking. I want to mess around with like costume puppets first, because I didn't really did that before. I did mascotting. I did mascot for a couple of years. So, but mascotting and then a costume puppet are totally different things. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do that and how I'm going to pull that off. And
yeah. Well, I mean, your story is definitely a roller coaster of a bit of a crushing experience, but it brought you through this entire, process of several years of growing a community and friendship. So for that, I thank you for sticking with puppetry. I mean, it definitely, my experience would have been worlds different, I'm sure, if you hadn't had the desire to continue with puppetry.
one of the things I tell myself, if it sucks and you hate life and stuff, use that as to feed your projects. Just feed into your creation. Just use that anger and use it for good.
Don't let being down get you down.
Yeah, you can use that to like really feed yourself, feed your creations. That's why we have a lot of topics and a lot of TikTok videos and YouTube projects and stuff, because all that stress you get in your normal life, I can put that into my work and show the world that we can do anything if put your mind to it.
Absolutely.
Like a normal person, I was a normal Joe, and I just made a sock puppet, and internet loved it.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere, and yeah. Wow, that's a story to be told. I'm glad that we're able to share.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that you shared your story with us and what brought you to puppetry. I think it's really important that we remember those stories, because that's what makes our art so special, is the ability to tell stories. Before we go, do you have anything else this episode you'd like to say to our audience of lovely listeners?
Remember your first puppet, and don't listen to the haters. I listened to so many people putting me down about this art form and work, and just use that to make your art better. Right? And I think you had heard so many people being negative and stuff. And what do you think? What do you think about that? Does that happen to you all the time?
Not all the time, but the internet is a faceless place, and for people who, don't like what you do, they have that ability to express it. But I always really, for the most part, I've taken those comments as, why don't they like this guy? What can I do if he's not a perfect character in my mind? How can I change him? And I feel like that's helped in some cases, and it's been an annoyance in others. But I definitely agree with your notion of never forgetting your first. First puppet is always special. I don't think I'll ever have to rebuild Albert, but if I ever do, I'm going to obviously keep my first and take very good care of him, because he's the best. To me, he's the best puppet in the world, because he's not.
I still have every clone of Spike. I have the first Spike. I donated the third Spike to my school, and the original Swampy I donated. Just keep like those old puppets you have, because someday they might go in a museum or something, or be somewhere special, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, even if we don't get the acclaim that everyone strives for at some point, I think that it's important to remember what started you out, for sure.
Yeah.
If we don't have any other points to add, I think this is a great time to stop this week and just give our listeners some time to reflect on the stories we've told and think about what really drives them in this industry and in this art form, or if they aren't a part of puppetry, why they aren't yet, you know?
Grab a sock and some ping pong balls and start cracking, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed, and stay tuned for The Hand That Does the Talking.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to the first episode of The Hand Does the Talking. We hope to hear from you again soon, and that you will listen with us next time.